Managing conflicts of interest in business. Today, I want to do a little bit longer video. And those of you that follow the channel know that we focus on business and legal and things in the business world that kind of have legal implications. Today, I want to jump longer into conflicts of interest. We've done some short content on it, and then we usually follow up with some longer content where we go a little bit deeper. The shorts are great for getting views, getting people interested, and then we like to go to long form content here on this channel. So short, long, short, long. Let's talk about conflicts of interest a little bit deeper. I mean, obviously, they are an issue because we don't know who somebody's serving when there is a conflict of interest, right? Are they serving themselves? Are they serving the company? And this comes up a lot with officers and directors and owners of businesses. These are typically business people. They may be involved in multiple businesses, multiple ventures, particularly directors. That's standard and understood that directors going to have more employment than just being a director of a company. Officers often work for the company, but sometimes they'll own stuff outside the business. Maybe in some circumstances, you might have an officer who works part-time and has other businesses, but a lot of times your officers, at least in a larger company, are full-time employees. And then you have ownership issues too. You have a lot of people that are owners of businesses, and they then in turn may own other businesses, some of which may or may not be competitive. And part of this is, and this becomes an issue with non-competes and LLC agreements and other documents, is what's competitive, right? Obviously, there's only so many dollars, and if you take a very broad view of the world, everything's almost competitive with each other, right? If you spend $1 on Coca-Cola versus $1 on a coffee versus $1 on a lunch, they're all competing with each other at some level. But in reality, most of us would say those were different market segments. Even Coca-Cola versus coffee, most people would view as being different market segments, even though they are both beverages. And there may be times where people do substitute one for the other. There will be times where somebody wanted a coffee and they drank a Coca-Cola, or vice versa, because of availability or other factors. And so those two are competing with each other to some limited extent, but we wouldn't really view that as a conflict of interest, or most people wouldn't. Where we get into a real conflict is when people's loyalties are divided, and this starts to become more clear. And the interesting thing is, this is often clear in the rearview mirror. It's like many things in life and in business. When you look backwards, the analysis changes, right? When we look forward, we're like, oh, well, I don't see an issue. It's okay. I can manage the conflict. And often the person with the conflict thinks it's a smaller deal than the person questioning the conflict. And usually when there's a question around a conflict, there's been some problem. So we've got to really keep that in mind, which is to say, for the most part, you've got conflicts are going to get judged in the rearview mirror, which means we need to be managing this going forward, thinking about the fact that it's going to get viewed from the future, not from the present tense, and that does change the analysis. So what do we do? Well, we need to understand where we are. And now sometimes this sounds simplistic, right? Where are we? Who do we stand with? What do we own? And sometimes people, particularly people with larger portfolios, may not even understand what they own, and that can be an issue. And then, of course, a big piece of this is disclosure, right? Telling people what's going on. The more that's disclosed, generally, the harder it is. And that's a basic principle in securities documents, too. To disclose and to get information out, the more generally you tell people, the less they can fight you for not knowing, right? It's hard to get upset about a conflict of interest when you were clearly told about it and fairly told about it. So getting ahead of these conflicts. And then really, as a company, having a policy of how you're going to handle conflicts of interest. How bad do you need the person? How bad do you need their input? Are you more worried about the conflict, or are you more worried about the individual, the officer or director, and their involvement in business? And that's really a business decision to be made. But it all starts with knowing the conflicts and disclosing the conflicts. And this is a step that many people miss, not even thinking about conflicts of interest until a problem arises. So I encourage you to think about it sooner. Maybe make this part of your quarterly discussions with your company when you do your updates, when you do your board meeting. Talk about people's conflicts. Are conflicts coming in? Are new businesses being purchased? Are businesses that people maybe have been participating for a while pivoting to where they may be competitors, right? That is a possible too, right? You have somebody involved in multiple businesses and they pivot towards the same market opportunity. So you need to talk about and discuss these conflicts within your business. Hope you subscribe to the channel. We bring regular content about business, business law, issues, future of business. So you'll find a lot of great stuff here. You can join the channel. Join me in the comments, but I always tell people comments are not confidential. Don't put anything there you don't want other people seeing. So keep those comments very basic. And I'll see you for another video soon.